Ike is a powerful mage and the commander of the Undine Brigade in the Demon Lord's army. To conceal his human identity from many demons, he wears a skeleton mask. Currently, he leads an army of your mothers on a fierce assault on the city of Arsenum. His assistant Jiren has provided your mothers with a battering ram and orders to use it to breach the city walls. The humans are quickly overwhelmed once the breach is made, but the captain of the city guard watches from indoors and is soon confronted by Ike. From Ike's aura, the captain immediately recognizes him as the commander of the demonic brigade, and Ike soon introduces himself and offers the captain 3 choices: surrender and hand over the territories to the demons, die by his hands, or flee Arsenum, just like how my father left me. The city leader is taken aback by a demon showing mercy but rejects all the options and attempts to attack. However, Ike anticipates this and counters with a spell, quickly ending the fight. Standing over the unconscious body of his defeated foe, Jiren rushes into the room to ensure his master's safety. The assistant is astonished when Ike orders him to tend to the captain's wounds, extending this mandate to all the human soldiers who have surrendered. Sapphiro observes everything from a crystal ball and is impressed that Ike managed to capture Arsenum with a single brigade within a week. She is pleased that her intuition about Ike's potential was correct. Meanwhile, Ike erects a powerful barrier around his new office and looks out at the massive wreckage that marked the end of the battle. Behind his sinister mask, Ike feels guilty about hurting so many of his kind, revealing that he is a soft-hearted individual who has never become accustomed to the gruesome nature of war. His teacher was the famous demon Romberg, a great mage with secret knowledge of an advanced civilization that once lived in the world. Romberg raised and never abandoned Ike despite him being human, imparting all his knowledge and magic to him. He then recalls Romberg's final warning, which was to never speak of the lost civilization, as it would bring disaster. He was also told to never remove his robe and mask because the Demon Lord will never forgive him if his identity was revealed. As the Demon Lord's warning echoed in his mind, Jiren felt secure within his powerful barrier, knowing that no one could enter without his permission. However, his sense of security was shattered when he discovered a maid hiding under the desk. The maid pleaded with him not to eliminate her, but Jiren was torn between his desire to cry and his duty to keep his identity a secret. He had kept it hidden for 20 years, and this was how it was revealed. After the battle, Jiren called his master for a post-battle update as they walked through the streets. They had successfully taken the castle, but the assistant expressed concerns about the number of humans living in the city. However, he was reassured that the new Demon Lord only cared about results and was not as brutal as the previous one. I'd explained that reducing the population would mean fewer people to pay taxes, but Arsenum was a trading city that required people to maintain commerce. As they walked, they were met by one of the city elders who inquired about the taxes they would need to pay to the Demon Lord's army. They were relieved to hear that the amount would remain the same as before, but the elder warned that any resistance to the army would be punished, regardless of rank. Meanwhile, Ike was suddenly transported to a location by Sapphiro where a golem attacked him. He evaded the attack and blew the golem away with a powerful spell. But Sapphiro, a core commander who outranked Ike, was impressed by his strength. She revealed that she was the only demon who knew his secret. I guessed that she wanted details on the events in Arsenum, but she informed him that her familiars had already told her everything. The reason for the summons was because the Demon Lord wanted to see him in person, which Sapphiro believed was due to his impressive feat of taking Arsenum in a week. They would be teleporting to the Demon Lord's castle, and Sapphiro ordered Ike to place his hand on her mommy milkers as they teleported. As Siggy regained consciousness after collapsing from fear, she tried to leave but was blocked by an invisible barrier. Turns out, Ike had left her a note and some food, which she devoured like there was no tomorrow. Meanwhile, Ike and Sapphiro arrived at the Demon King's castle, where the miasma surrounding the area began to affect Ike as he is a human. A menacing guard stood at the door, ready to inspect anyone who entered. Making Ike worry, however, Sapphiro casted a spell that gave him a demonic aura, fooling the guard. Sapphiro cut the conversation short as they had an important meeting, explaining that the castle was a testament to the power and influence of the Demon Lord. Ike admired Sapphiro's control of the flight spell as she glided along the long hallway. He then mentions that he could also use it, but only to jump high. But soon, the fake demon was told to wait outside while his superior talked to them first. During this interval, Ike shared some background information about the current Demon Lord, Derekuten. He explained that Derekuten had turned the tide of the war against humanity in a single battle and was the leader of the demons and the strongest man. Ike was excited to meet the highest commander in the army and kept his head down as he entered, bowing. However, he was told to raise his head and was shocked to see that Derekuten, the Demon Lord, was a female. She welcomed him to the castle and praised him for conquering the impregnable fortress city of Arsenum in just 7 days. Ike, however, attributed his success to following orders and gave credit to Sapphiro. Daracuten found his humility to be a very human trait, causing Ike to fear that his cover had been blown. Daracuten mentioned Ike's lineage, noting that he was the grandson of the man known as the Guardian of Hell. This background explained his humility, and the demon lord surmised that Ike was a man of deep thought. She highlighted his decision to spare the people of Arsenum and their leader, praising the minimal loss of life. Ike soon wondered if he should have acted more like a demon and exterminated more people to fit in, but he didn't believe that would have been the right thing to do. He asked for permission to speak and explained that humans would not obey terror, even if they feared it. Explaining that, historically, towns where leaders were executed by demons had lower productivity than those where leaders were left alive, a philosophy that was also shared by Romberg. Suddenly, Daracuten teleported close to Ike's face, commenting on how different he was from other demons. She expressed a desire to see his real face beneath the mask at their next meeting, before shifting behind him, informing him that she expected to see more impressive results. As soon as the area was clear, Ike fell to the floor, gasping for air, having been so tense that he couldn't breathe. He removed his mask to get more airflow, surprising Sapphiro, who had never seen him this nervous. Ike then confessed that behind this scary mask was a wimp, and he worried as Daracuten knew he was wearing one. His superior then revealed that their boss had given him a reward, although Sapphiro saw it more as a punishment. The scene then shifts to Ike returning to his office, where he found an empty dish and a sleeping Sadie. He kicked the chair to wake her up, and the maid bowed down and apologized frantically, promising to do anything if he didn't kill her. Ike, puzzled by her behavior, assured her that he wasn't going to harm her. She soon calmed down and revealed her name was 13, explaining that indentured servants were referred to by number, but she also shared her birth name, Sadie. However, Ike couldn't let her go now that she knew he was human, so she promised not to tell anyone and eagerly agreed to be his maid from then on. It was later revealed that Ike was made the ruler of a nearby domain, and Jiren congratulated him. Ike recalled the moment Sapphiro told him about his new territory, which was further south than Arsenum and now the new front line of the war. Even though it was a small town, it was critical to their army. His mission was to protect the area and double the current tax revenue. Ike soon informed his men that this would be the front line of the battle against humanity, and they could be attacked at any time. They needed to repair the destroyed town, which had been damaged by Sapphiro. However, Jiren informed Ike that it would take 6 months to repair the walls, but Ike believed they could do it in 1 month. To everyone's surprise, he used both humans and demons to complete the work, organizing them into 8-hour shifts for continuous progress. He even paid them to provide further incentive. Demonstrating his leadership by destroying a giant rock the demons were struggling to move, showing them he was capable and in control. In the next scene, another battle between humans and demons unfolds. The mages try to hold off the endless hordes invading their territory, but one of them believes it's sufficient to hurl multiple fire spells as a team, targeting the rows of monsters. However, these evil beings remain unscathed despite enduring such high-level magic. In no time, the city walls are breached, and the two forces clash physically, with the demons gaining the upper hand over the humans. As the battle happens, Daracuten receives news that the war against Rosaria is progressing well, but the region plans to form alliances with neighboring countries to mount a stronger resistance. Observing the tendency of humans to unite in the face of difficulty, Daracuten decides to leave this problem in Ike's hands while handling Ivalia's bureaucratic matters. A sorcerer, served tea by his new maid Sadie, acknowledges her concern about his fit tea, but remains focused on his tasks. On the other side of the conflict, Alistair, leader of the Order of the White Rose Knights, is summoned to retake Ivalia. Her superior deems the loss of that territory humiliating and believes it is high time to stop letting the enemies underestimate humans. Meanwhile, in an alley of Ivalia, a trickster runs a scam game, promising to double the bet for anyone who can guess under which cup the ball is hidden. With nothing else to do, Sei decides to take a guess, but having no money to bet, the game master gets irritated and yells at her. However, seeing her good nature, he suggests she bet something more physical instead of money. But before anything can happen, a spell lifts all 3 cups simultaneously, revealing that the ball was under none of them, causing those who lost money to demand retribution through violence. In the midst of this, Ike appears in the crowd without his disguise, stating he is on a mission to infiltrate among humans and observe them as enemies. As some of Ivalia's troops patrol the city streets in a strange formation, Ike comments that the story about the King's alliance seems true. Segi then asks what that is, and he explains it is an ancient alliance where countries unite in times of danger, setting aside their individual interests to prioritize the common good. This alliance has been activated 3 times in the past, and each time the Demon Lord was defeated with his forces pushed back. Curiously, Sadie becomes downcast upon hearing this, prompting Ike to ask why she is sad about a possible human victory. She reveals that in human society, a slave is always a slave, so if Ike disappears, she will likely end up on the streets becoming a bargaining chip for some servant trader. Hearing this, Ike comforts her, saying that the current demon lord is the strongest and wisest in history, ensuring their victory is certain. After speaking, he reflects that both humans and demons have numerous problems and wonders if there is any way to change this once and for all. Suddenly, the scammer from the cup game returns to confront Sadie, accusing her of performing the trick that lifted the cups. Beside him stands a gigantic brute ready to teach the meddler a lesson. However, Sadie argues that the man cheated, but he doesn't care about that. He just wants to recover his loss, be it money or whatever the girl can offer. Without being invited into the conversation, Ike looks around and sees no one else nearby and freezes the brute's legs, summoning sharp ice lances that float in the air. Next, he tries to question the scammer, but the man wouldn't shut up for even a second, so Ike drives a lance into his arm to convince him to be quiet. Ike then mentions the agitation of the local army and demands to know what the soldiers are talking about. But when the scammer tries to convince Ike that he knows nothing, the mage threatens him once more, this time with death. The scammer, fearing for his life, reluctantly divulges information about the impending alliance and Rosaria's plan to strike Evalia due to its weakened defenses. Satisfied with the intelligence gathered, Ike departs, leaving the men trapped in ice. Returning to his office, Ike surprises the Lord of Evalia with a visit from Lilith, an old friend inquiring about his absence. Ike then explains his observation in Rosaria, about to share insights when Lilith interrupts, questioning Sadie's presence. She then introduces herself, prompting Lilith to mock her appearance and offers herself as Ike's maid, insisting Sadie be dismissed and forbidding any flirtation with Ike. However, Sadie retorts humorously, questioning how she could flirt when deemed unattractive and asserting her rightful place as Ike's chosen servant. Lilith's patience wears thin, leading to a skirmish between the two, but is quickly interrupted by Gyron's arrival to witness the office turmoil. As evening falls, Rosaria's troops gather around Evalia, preparing for a surprise assault. Noticing the eerie silence and absence of local guards, one soldier notes the unsettling calm. As catapults ready for the attack, skeletons rise from the ground and goblin archers emerge from the mountains, catching the invading forces off guard. Witnessing this, Alistair orders a retreat atop Evalia's walls and Gyron praises the enemy commander's strategic plans. However, not all goes as planned as a mysterious archer from within Evalia's structures targets Ike, striking him in the back and incapacitating him. In another scene, news of the White Rose Knight's retreat reaches Rosaria's superior officer, who, outraged by the failure, orders Alistair's arrest. However, the subordinate questions this decision, highlighting Alistair's competency and the potential impact on morale, but the officer insists on upholding honor by punishing failure, regardless of rank. Meanwhile, Ike awakens in his bed, bandaged and without his mask, with Sapphiro by his side. Confused, he questions the situation, prompting Sapphiro to joke about his eagerness the previous night. She explains how she healed his arrow wound and confirms no human casualties during the battle. Concerned about suspicion from the Demon Lord, Ike ponders their future interactions and expresses his desire for coexistence between humans and demons, a principle firmly rooted in his beliefs. Sapphiro then leaves him to rest, reminding him of his humanity while Ike contemplates the implications of recent events. Examining the arrow that wounded him, Ike wonders if an infiltrator lurks within his ranks. Reaffirming his disguise, Ike prepares for Lilith's arrival, eager to see him recovered, with Sadie standing by, sharing the same relief. The demon, agitated, hisses at Sadie, trying to make her keep her distance, and the two engage in another round of squabbling until Gyron intervenes, throwing Lilith out and standing guard at the door to prevent her from re-entering. Sadie thanks him, calling the orc Mr. Ugly, which offends him. But Ike quickly corrects her, saying Gyron isn't that ugly, just has a rustic face and a chubby body. He then asks Gyron to locate the commander of the White Rose Knights. Later, after Gyron completes his surveillance, Ike learns that Alistair was imprisoned following the failed attack on Evalia. He heads to the prison, only to be interrupted by Lilith, who makes jokes about terrible humans being held there. Ike, losing his patience, warns her to stay quiet. But she insists that being alone is too boring, so the mage reluctantly allows her to accompany him as long as she remains silent. Upon reaching the prison gate, Lilith remarks that it's easy to get in due to the few guards, but Ike aims to avoid causing a commotion and prefers stealth. However, Lilith knocks out the guards, clearing the way. However, the prison is much larger than Ike anticipated. But Lilith quickly knocks out another guard, steals the key, and finds out that Alistair is on the top floor. But as they proceed, more soldiers attack them, so Lilith hands the keys to Ike and asks him to go ahead while she deals with the guards. Ike also reminds her to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. But in an instant, she fractures 14 of the opponent's bones and Ike pretends not to see. After reaching Alistair's cell, he unlocks the door, but it appears empty. Confused, Ike steps inside to analyze the situation and Alistair emerges from behind, so the mage quickly subdues her. However, Alistair assumes that Ike has come to mock her defeat. He ignores her and directly asks if she sent an infiltrator to Avalia to kill him. But instead of answering, Alistair questions whether Ike is truly a demon. Puzzled, he asks what she means, but guards quickly rush up the stairs, discovering the intruder. Taking advantage of the distraction, Alistair holds a knife to Ike's neck, considering the possibility that he might be human. Holding Ike hostage, she insists on asking if he is human or not, taking him outside the cell as guards arrive. In response, the commander of the Demon Brigade freezes time and pushes the guards away with magic. Suddenly, a massive soldier attacks him unexpectedly, but Ike evades the blow and shatters the floor beneath his opponent, causing him to plummet from the top floor of the vast prison. However, before the soldier falls, Ike casts a spell to cushion his descent, preventing his death. Watching this scene, Alistair wonders why Ike saved the soldier. Unable to move, the officer falls due to the collapsing floor beneath her, but Ike once again prevents another human's death. But the wizard tries to calm things by introducing himself formally. Impressed by his credentials, the woman is amazed to be in the presence of the ruler who defended Ivalia so effectively. Answering the officer's earlier question, Ike asserts that he cannot be human since he commands demonic forces. He then questions if she sent someone to execute him. Undeterred, Alistair declares her loyalty as a knight of the kingdom and refuses to reveal anything to the demon, willing to face death if necessary. Ike, however, has another plan and approaches her to read her mind. But suddenly, Lilith arrives distracted and asks what kind of shamelessness this is. Receiving no response, she suggests Ike have some fun with her instead of this boring human. However, Ike ignores Lilith until he finishes what he was doing and turns and leaves, leaving Alistair unsatisfied. Alistair orders him to stop and asks why he came there. But Ike replies that she need not worry because apparently it turns out that she had nothing to do with the attempted execution he suffered. The woman argues that she said nothing, so Ike explains that he read her mind and saw nothing suspicious. Finally, he advises her to focus on what needs to be done after their defeat, as that is the most important thing. With that, he distances himself from the confused woman. Lilith then invites Ike to relax somewhere before heading home, but he declines the offer and enters a portal he just created. Arriving home, Ike presents Sadie with a portion of rice he bought in the capital. She asks why, and he recalls being told to double the city's taxes. Emphasizing Ivalia's fertile soil with wheat as the main crop, Ike suggests cultivating more rice in the city. He explains that more productive food could free up farmers for other roles like joining the army or construction projects, fostering faster city development. To symbolize the beginning of this transformation, Ike asks Sadie to cook the rice he brought. However, she has no idea how to do it, having never seen this food before. Ike doesn't know either but tells her to figure it out, and Sadie asserts she will do her best. Later, Ike finds the army assembled and Jiren wonders why everyone was gathered. He then responds that he will explain soon. Reflecting on the attempt on his life, Ike concludes that the arrow belonged to the enemy army, yet Alistair, the attacker's leader, knew nothing about it. This suggests someone intended to frame the Knights of the White Rose. So to gather information, he reads the minds of his warriors, while Jiren admires Ike's power, eager for him to delve further. Among the troops, a goblin sweats nervously, fearing discovery. At that moment, Ike teleports in front of him and accuses the soldier. That night, the commander visits Sapphiro after a long absence, a fact the woman pointedly comments on. Despite being accustomed to seeing his superior bathing, he prefers to wait outside until she is ready. But before leaving the bathroom, she asks if he found the spy, to which he replies is the second in command of the 7th Battalion, the one-eyed goblin Jace. However, Sapphiro isn't surprised as she already had her suspicions. Ike then adds that Jace is very intelligent and a veteran warrior. But suddenly, Sapphiro rises from the bath and asserts that this traitor must pay a high price. The scene then shifts to the one-eyed creature being informed by his subordinate that the commander visited Sapphiro. Jace asks the shooter if he messed everything up since Ike is still alive, but the archer assures him that he pierced the target's chest. Another comrade soon informs Jace that he cannot contact the Immortal Brigade's spies, so Jace deduces he was discovered and plans to strike first to avoid being caught off guard. However, as if that weren't enough, Jace is informed by a third ally that Ike himself has come to see him. Upon arrival, the goblin comments that the commander made a point of coming alone, and Ike notes that the goblin decided to do the opposite, with dozens of soldiers behind him. Therefore, he wants to know if Jace plans to start a war. However, Jace responds that this is his territory and none of the commander's business. Moreover, he mentions that Ike was injured in the last battle and believes this is due to the commander becoming too confident, which made him careless and unacceptable behavior for the leader of a brigade. Without losing his calm, Ike agreed with Jace's point of view because indeed, he needed to be more cautious, especially concerning potential traitors. Realizing he had been discovered, Jace smirked and asked what Ike planned to do alone, even though the goblins' one-eyed army was twice the size of the city's military contingent. Moreover, the entire army was eager to taste the blood of the commander. Looking around, Ike was pleased to see all the traitorous soldiers gathered, as it allowed him to kill hundreds of birds with one stone. He soon unleashed a meteor shower that dispersed the troops from the dark sky above. Sephiroth chanted the spell to keep the flames falling from behind the clouds. However, causing devastation in Avalia was not part of the plan, so Ike tried to shield himself while regretting involving the sorceress in his plans again, as the idea was to contain the power to minimize the destruction of structures. Then Sephiroth ordered her skeleton troops to destroy the enemies mercilessly, while Ike appeared directly behind Jace, offering him two options: surrender peacefully now or surrender after losing everything. But Jace chose option C, sending his minions after the mage. Without difficulty, Ike repelled the enemy forces with his vast array of spells, leaving no chance for his opponents to even touch him. As the soldiers advanced toward their target, Jace hid behind a rock, even as his subordinates called for their leader's presence. According to Jace, his servant's job was merely to buy time for his escape. With this in mind, he fled over the city's structures, promising to make Sephiroth pay. A huge creature also tried to stop the goblin with a punch that sank the roof of the house, but Jace had his tricks to avoid capture, like a smoke bomb that allowed him to evade the giant. Once no one was around, he entered a secret passage leading directly outside the city and away from the battle. Confident he had successfully escaped. However, Ike appeared to thwart the goblin's plans once more, nearly hitting him with a fireball. Jace questioned how the commander knew where he was, since only he knew of that path. But Ike explained that his familiar had followed the traitor. Furious, Jace crushed the familiar with his hand and demanded how the mage dared to stand in his way. But Jace, willing to take the confrontation to the bitter end, punched the mage's magical shield while arrogantly announcing his credentials as the vice commander of the 7th Battalion. A mere punch was no match for the sorcerer's magical shield, so Ike counterattacked by binding the traitor. Ironically, Jace remarked that the demon army held Commander Ike in high esteem and that the goblin had always known the mage had immense talent with unmatched sorcery and intelligence. Reflecting on this, Jace proposed that the two commanders take over the Demon Lord's army together since they had spent their lives fighting humans. On the other hand, the Demon Lord had never done anything for them. Following demonic instincts and making humans obey and suffer was what brought the greatest joy. But the current Lord did not allow her troops to kill without a justified reason, and many members of the army were dissatisfied with this. According to Jace, it seemed that Darikutin lacked the firm hand necessary to lead such dark forces and sometimes gave the impression that she didn't even want the position. Thus, they would be doing a favor by dethroning the current ruler, which is why Jace wished for the commander to join them. After the speech, Ike refused the proposal without a second thought. Anticipating this, Jace threw a kunai at his superior, but he dodged the blade and froze time, dismissing the goblin's ridiculous escape attempt. Moreover, Jace had mentioned joining them, so Ike asked if anyone else was aiding the goblin, but he refused to speak, so Sephiroth appeared to torture the traitor until he talked. Pulling at his bindings, Ike asked his superior not to interfere as he wanted to use his own methods. However, the sorceress could not tolerate the subordinate's delay in doing what was necessary. With that said, the spy began to show signs of poisoning, prompting Ike to use his antidote spell, but to no avail. This meant Jace had been poisoned by his own comrades, which to Ike was the worst crime possible. Sephiroth then used Jace's companion's hate for him to make the goblin talk, as there was no need to stay silent for those who betrayed him. Besides, she assured him that she would avenge him if he revealed who cooperated in the espionage. Jace gave the name of the responsible party before losing his life. After the entire incident, the commander of the Immortal Brigade was summoned by the Demon Lord along with Sephiroth, who reported that the mastermind behind the plot was the head of the 3rd Battalion, Bastio. However, Darikutin demanded proof, so the sorceress explained that Bastio had dragged Jace to his side and was plotting the deaths of the 3 present in the throne room. After hearing Sephiroth, the ruler asked for the word of a 4th-person backslash who appeared in the room, surprising the 7th Battalion commanders. This then concludes the 3rd episode's recap of this anime. If you enjoyed this video and want more of it, go ahead and hit that like button down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you everyone for helping us in reaching 5,000 subscribers. Let's continue to grow this community and help us reach a new goal of 10,000 subscribers.